Zombies in space. This is the first time I think I've ever seen Star Trek lean into the horror genre. I think it was done fairly well. There was definitely some good moments of tension in this episode. Also, a pretty big emotional scene that I got a little teary-eyed over. But overall, a lot of good sort of story background for several of the main characters. Not going to spoil who just quite yet because we do all the spoilers after the fold. So, um, I would say that this is not my favorite episode of the season so far, but it's the chance for a different character to have a moment to shine in the spotlight. And the resolution was kind of like, I was kind of like, about the resolution, but the overall episode I felt was still a great entry into Strange New Worlds. Um, in any case, if you haven't watched the episode yet, I would say go watch it first before we do this because we're about to jump into the spoiler territory. Because I spoil all the things. We're talking the whole episode, so giving you your countdown like I normally do: five, four, three, two, one. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon if you haven't already done so, and let's talk this episode, which starts off with Lieutenant Uhuru. She's basically experiencing, she's hearing something, right? And when she hears this thing, at the same time, she's suffering from some intense sleep deprivation because she's been just working overtime preparing this new gas station that's going to be going on and helping Pike with that. And they're here to put this machine online and gather deuteronium, I think is what it's called, um, and refine it. And there's also a subplot here which will it ties back into something from earlier on in the season, and you know it'll come back later. This is also an area that happens to be close to the Gorn border. So it's kind of a for Starfleet, it's a whole well, we could use the resources, yes, but it's more important where we're doing it because we can keep an eye on our, this enemy. So that'll probably come back at some point. But that's really the only tie to anything from earlier in the season. But we do get a tie back, sort of, to Hemmer's character, who was the chief engineer from season one. And we get that throwback because essentially, this is the short version. When they go about gathering the deuteronium and everything else, they come to realize that there's a life form attached to that, and they have to give up their attempts to refine the gas to save the life form. And that life form can only communicate through um, basically sending images to your brain, um, and your brain tries to interpret those visions into feelings or words. And over the course of the episode, she's essentially the only one who's hearing it, but then they find a guy from the other crew, the other ship that's here, that's also hearing it, and they realize that these two people, for particular reasons, we don't know exactly why, can hear these, you know, it's like they can hear that frequency. And at the end of it, that's we're saving a life form. That's cool. That's the short version of the episode because what's really going on with all of that is that it's causing Lieutenant Hero and this other guy from this other ship, Ramon, to have these powerful um, hallucinations, audiovisual on all forms. Like they think it's real. And she is able to overcome that through the help of her friends, but also it's very terrifying for her. And that's why I say zombies in space, because they did an excellent job in the makeup department. And with the soundtrack and the lighting and the filming of everything else, was every time she was having one of these hallucinations, it would break down into like full on like horror territory, like you're watching an episode of The Walking Dead or something, because she's seeing nasty things and dead people everywhere, and Hammer's back, only he's like all disfigured and zombie like, and this is essentially the mystery creatures trying to communicate, you're killing us, and showing her dead people to help her understand. But she doesn't understand in the beginning. It's intense. And so she thinks she's losing her mind. Um, the guy in the other ship is from James Kirk's ship. So he shows up in this episode with his ship, the Farragut, and he's the youngest ever to get a command position. There's some tension between him and Sam because he seems to be following in the James is following in the footsteps of his father, and um, we see Noonien Singh having a little bit of conflicted emotions because he's on board because of the feelings she has for him from the separate timeline she was on. Then there's on top of that, you have I think the funniest thing to me was when Kirk first arrives on the ship and he's sitting at the bar with getting a drink, and his brother's just stormed off, and her shows up and she's all like having a meltdown and she wants a strong drink, and he turns to her and offers her his help, wants to talk to her, whatever, and she takes it as him hitting on her, and she just flat out is like, I am not in the mood to be hit on right now. He's like, I was just offering help. She's like, whatever, and storms off. And then he goes after her and he's like, hey, I can really help. And then she's in the middle of a hallucination and turns around and clocks him across the face. So there was a good moment of discussion that happened after that. Very good stuff. And so there was that one emotional scene I think that got me a little teary eyed. They did a very good job in how that played out. I also really appreciated the it's I know not everyone is on board for the Spock and Nurse Chapel relationship, and that's okay. You don't have to be. I just look at it as another timeline, and I'm appreciating what the writers are doing. And what I really liked about that scene where they're playing chess is basically, Spock wanting to be Spock and tell the officials about the relationship, and she's like, no, because as we've heard from her in her past experiences, she doesn't like relationships. And she's not wrong that them telling Starfleet would essentially ruin what they have. Um, and she convinces him to, go ahead and keep it secret for now. But it's just the teasing that's going on. I like the way it was written, the back and forth banter between these two. I mean, you definitely understand that they both understand that what they're doing is probably not the best idea, but they're doing it anyway, which is what happens with those forbidden things. So yeah, I mean it's a subplot that not everyone is on board with, but I think it's well done, even if it's maybe not what we've seen from Spock in the past. Um, Captain Pike feels What's up, everybody? Quick commercial break here to give it a shout out to our guild champions, who are the highest tier memberships here on YouTube: Ancient Entity, Assassin Gamer 94, Bubbleonia Rising, Crazy's Relative, Mujin, and Remedy. Thanks so much for the highest tier membership. And thanks to all of the members who support the channel, because you keep me doing this full time. You too can become a supporter if you're new here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Join as a member. There's 3 different tiers. We do lots of special stuff, private polls, private videos. You get a shout out if you're the highest tier membership, but you can also do one-off donations in the form of super chats on any live stream or premiere you see, and of course super thanks on any upload or YouTube short. Whatever you can contribute, it's great. Keeps me on the air full time, keeps the cats fed, keeps the homestead running. Anyway, back to the video, everybody. Really sort of, rake by the book in this one because he's here to, as the temporary fleet commander, to take charge of this whole thing. But I like the way at the end, as we often see with his character, ultimately when they convince him that the lieutenant is not suffering from hallucinations and that what she's seeing is real, and that even though she's the only one that can sense it, there's an actual life form there. He doesn't hesitate once he has faith in her, once he trusts her. And I think that shows the bond between the characters here is that trust level. So it's great that you could see a leader trusting his subordinates in that way, because at the end of the day, even though he is the leader, they are the teammates, and that's important for his officers to have that level of trust. There's also a great subplot between the new space hippie engineer they have. There is a great confrontation scene between I don't know her name, the crazy old lady, the Gandalf figure, right? Her and number one, and Una's character, and um, the back and forth, and she basically just literally calls her a space hippie. I laughed so hard during that scene. It was really well played out. So overall, I mean, good acting from all of the participants in this episode. I don't think there was anything that I would really call out other than it felt a little over the top, sort of, to have like who is the only one who can hear them, along with this one other dude, and that felt it just felt a little over the top. But that's just a personal criticism that has nothing to do with whether or not the episode was good. But in my mind, you know, dock it a point or two for that. Still a good solid 8 out of 10. I really liked everything else about this episode. The sound was amazing. The lighting was amazing. Like the horror elements were very well done. Like I've never seen Star Trek do like. I mean, I guess there have been some episodes that dabbled in it, but this is the first time I've actually felt like they accomplished like the right tension, the lighting, and this, the makeup and everything else. Where I was like, ooh, yeah, that was kind of got me, So well done on that front. So great episode in my mind. Another solid sort of monster of the week, danger of the week episode that didn't really advance the storyline a lot. So looking forward to what comes down the pipeline next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. See everybody in the next one. Stay safe, everybody. Happy viewing.